this morning. He wants to talk about swimming with 2-year-olds.
Yeah, well, no. I'm talking about my grandson.
Rob, we got to go, Rob. Yeah. We can't talk about the
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Hey, got a lot to talk about today, man. I don't know if you watched on the Color TV over the weekend yesterday. The SEC in Austin, that was it was really neat. Paul Feinbaum, Laura Rutledge, Roman Harper, Jordan Rogers, Jimmy Dykes, Marty Smith. They had them all. Welcome to the SEC, Texas. And now today they're going to be in Norman, Oklahoma. So they're having all-day band parties, food trucks, and they're going to gather at Gaylord Family Stadium there in Norman. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. We got Mitch Davis, never one to hold back from letting you know what he thinks, themitchdavisshow.com. Franz Beard, the Iron Duke, chronicles history like few can, GatorbaitMedia.com, and the SEC. We're coming at you, and allow notifications on your Android and iPhone because here we go. Happy 4th of July week. Independence, freedom. We'll be right back.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Mitch Davis, MitchDavisShow.com. Yesterday was pretty cool. Out in Texas, Vince Young just didn't show up. Was supposed to be there. Not a good way to start. Texas. I got news for you. Oklahoma. Here's another maybe shocking news alert. You ain't the only big fish in the pond. Welcome to the SEC. Get in line. Take a number. Nobody gets moved to the front of the line just because they're a new member of the conference. But that was pretty cool, Mitch, what I saw in Austin yesterday. We just wrapped up baseball. The hatred between Texas and Texas A&M just got a battery charge, got a tune-up. But the SEC was great before these teams joined. It's going to be even more fun and more exciting with them in there. But what were your thoughts, your takeaways from day one of the 2-day road trip to welcome our new friends to the conference? Because they've been big in the Big 12. But again, welcome to the SEC. I got some stats that'll back me up.
Rob, Brendan, thank you so much for having me, guys. And I apologize if y'all hear a box fan going. My wife and I went out last night at about 8 o'clock. So went and saved the in-laws, and then I've got to work today. So I've got a 2-box fan and a ceiling fan right on me right now. So we're going to
thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So we got that going on.
I smell you from here. It's good.
And then I'm going to be on vacation next week. I'm going to be down near Brendan. I'm gonna start my vacation on Wednesday in Orlando. Gonna do Thursday, Friday and Friday in Orlando, and then heading over to Anna Marie Island for several days and a whole week.
Don't go in the water. Don't go in the water. 3 shark attacks. 3 shark attacks in the last week and a half. Rob will tell you all about it. He loves sharks.
When I was a kid, when the movie Jaws came out, Mitch, your parents will remember it. I love going to the Gulf. I love going swimming in the ocean on the Atlantic side, but on the Gulf, swimming in the Gulf. But I bought every book you could buy on shark attacks, International Shark Attack File. Now, they'll give you these statistics that with billions of people around the world, billions of people going into the water every day, everywhere, there's only 60 or 70 shark attacks a year and maybe a dozen people killed. Well, put it this way, it's bad for all of them. But the optics of a shark attack, you talk about, but I have swam before many times in triathlons and races in the Gulf when you go way out and you parallel the beach and you see sharks under you. Now, I'm guessing they're nurse sharks. They're very docile, but Man, you know one thing? Sharks, like dogs, can feel and smell fear. And
Shark.
yeah,
Dog
sharks.
Land
But
shark.
Mitch, don't be afraid to get in that water.
Shark
Hey,
attack.
I'm
Be
getting in
familiar
there.
with your
I'm gonna
surroundings.
be hammered back on a rack of Coors Lights and couple Coors Banquets. I got some good Cuban cigars. Man, I'm kind of looking forward to just chilling. So
Viva!
I might not hear back from you for a week or so.
Well, Mitch, what's really cool, you get down. So you're going to be down on the Gulf side, aren't you? In the Big Bend, down low.
So it's south of Tampa somewhere. It's so it's between Tampa and I think Sarasota or something like that. It's near Bradenton, wherever IMG Academy is. So it's near that beach. So we're staying actually in Holmes Beach. So if any of your listeners got recommendations, be down there with my family. But my wife and I, it's our birthday that week, so we're gonna be going out and hopefully find a cool, beach bar type atmosphere. The only thing is they've got to serve Coors or Coors Banquet or Jack Daniels and Coke because that's just what this country boy likes.
How about that? How about
I like Ham's beer, but it's not.
Yes!
It's not the Coors. It's not that crisp rockiness that I like.
Rocky Mountain piss water, baby. I was raised on it.
Mitch, I'm old enough to remember when my parents would go to business meetings out in Denver for AIA stuff. They would bring back cases. That was after the movie Smokey and the Bandit came out.
Yeah.
They would bring back cases of Coors beer with them, and you had to worry about being caught with it. Can you believe that? But look, there are sharks out in the water everywhere, but you're more likely to probably win a scratch off with the lottery than you are to be attacked by a shark. You hope you're not, but you just keep yourself familiar with the surroundings. Mitch, speaking of sharks, what were your thoughts about Austin? It's all about Texas. As Dr. Arnoff said on the show Friday, they will suck the air out of every room they go to. That's kind of the fun part of it. Bevo weighs 2,100 pounds and eats 62 pounds of food a day. That won't get you to Atlanta alone.
So, and I'm gonna be a very highly unpopular person, like I normally am with some of my opinions and some of my thoughts. But guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm already so sick and tired of Texas. Because here's the thing: we're sitting here and talking about Texas this, Texas that. Guys, we added Oklahoma, who's had 10 times more success
I know.
in the last 20 years than Texas ever has. And everybody wants to talk about Texas. And it was so sickening watching the commissioner of the SEC, who's supposed to be a
nonpartisan.
Yeah, who is supposed to go right down the middle. It was so, as an SEC fan and as a guy who goes to every Mississippi State home game, most of the Ole Miss home games, guy who's got deep ties to Kentucky and Tennessee and elsewhere around the SEC. It was sickening, guys, and I could be wrong. And I've met a lot of cool Texas fans so far, and they're saying, hey, we missed the Big Eight. We missed, when it was us, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Mizzou, A&M. And to me, like, if you scroll through Texas Twitter, their fans, they're saying, oh, why would we root for the SEC? We never wanted to be a part of this. Well, hey, that's fine. Then why didn't you go independent? Because this whole celebration thing, if I remember correctly, guys, we didn't do this for A&M. We didn't do this for Mizzou. And I know sure as hell we didn't do it for South Carolina, Arkansas. So why are we doing this for Texas? And the whole conversation is about Texas instead of Oklahoma, which is wild to me.
Well, we didn't. I thought about it. We didn't have the SEC network back then. I did think about that watching it yesterday. The other thing is, I've been talking about this. I've been to Austin many times. Know a lot of Texas people. We've been covering Texas on this show extensively with Ken Capps, Bo Carter, and Anwar Richardson from OrangeBloods.com. Billy Shershot, a number of people. Olin Buchanan covering Texas A&M. But we've been on it for years. My friend Dave Cody was sports anchor for about 30 years at Channel 7 in Austin. He can give us some really good insight. I'll get him on the show with us. He's listening right now. He's retired, semi-retired, living out near Seattle in Bellingham, Washington, at the foot of Mount Baker, running a golf course where every day it's 68 degrees with a 5 to 10 mile an hour breeze out of the north. It's very nice up there. Mitch, I didn't mean to say that. I know your air conditioning's not working, but it's beautiful up there. But let me say, I think you hit the mute button, but what I'm noticing in the last 12 years, Texas has lost 4 games or more, I think 9 or 10 times. Okay. Oklahoma. Now you talk about a standard. They're in Norman today. 52 conference championships, 7 national championships, 7 Heisman Trophy winners. They've played for the national championship in the last 25 years 4 times. Now they won it in 2000, 12-4 in extra innings against Florida State. That was a low-scoring affair, but they played for it again in 03. LSU won that one in New Orleans. They played for it in 08. Remember when they played the Gators? Coming into that game, Oklahoma was averaging about 60 points a game in the previous 5 games, and Florida shut them down 24-14 with Tim Tebow. Yeah, they were doing this. By the way, you can get your Gator Chomp polos at Hewlett and Dunn. They've got them. They've sold out of them. They're getting another order in. But they played for it again after that and lost again. But Oklahoma, yeah, there it is, the Chomp shirt, Gator Chomp. Ooh, that is cool.
That was a sexy right there.
Yeah, they're good looking. It's the guy. No one's ever made one like that. I've never seen one like that. It's the Chomp. But when you see it up close, it's a polo, and it's that moisture wicking. So as it is very hot in most of our footprint of our viewers and listeners, check out hewlettanddunn.com. You can order you one of those. But Mitch, I think Texas, Philip Marshall is a guy I have a lot of respect for. And you talk about someone I would recommend you do a podcast with. He claims he's the oldest living active writer in the South. I say claim, I'm not doubting it, but he's really not that old. He's in his early 71, 72. He's been writing for 55 years. Oh, his father, Benny Marshall, was a legendary sports editor of the Birmingham News and passed away at a young age, I believe, of 47. Philip, I love this guy. He's with Auburn Undercover, but he was sports editor of the Huntsville Times, Montgomery Advertiser. He has Skywriters tours, the Skywriters tour with Buddy Martin. He was on those. But he said, Texas it's all this. They had one good year last year, and all of a sudden everybody, since 1970.
Look, ESPN has been dying to get into Texas.
Yeah,
for a long time. Right, this goes way back to when ESPN was doing all the websites. Where they were going to like ESPNU was doing all this, and they were going. Everyone like Texas was going to be Texas ESPN, and Texas was their first tool that they tried to do that with, which failed miserably, by the way. But they're dying to get at that huge chunk of market down there.
Well, they are,
I think. Sorry, Rob, to interrupt you, but I think that and again, I've met Commissioner Sankey. He's a very nice guy, and I'd love to have him on the podcast. However, I think if you look at the history of the SEC and look at what Mike Slide did as commissioner, I don't think Mike Slide would be too happy about adding such a pompous fan base like Texas. Oklahoma's fine. They are some of the nicest people I've ever interacted with on Twitter. Texas fans, guys, if you can go read through my Twitter, I put out a tweet. I was talking about A&M because I have spent a lot of time with A&M the last 6 months, whether it be basketball, baseball. I've spent a lot of time. Spent some time with them in Hoover and spent some time basketball-wise in Memphis and in Nashville and got to know some of the coaches and the brass at A&M. And I put out a tweet about the coaching, debacle that went down and what happened with, the baseball coaching search. And Texas fans cursing me out, calling me a pig, calling me fat, calling me this. And I have never in my life seen so many fans, and these were people with like legit profiles, calling, people names and DMing people, and it was ridiculous. And it is crazy because if you talk to Tennessee fans, you talk to Ole Miss fans, who people normally like to hate, those two fan bases are now ganging up on Texas saying, hey, we can't welcome these guys in because, again, they don't have I know it's Texas and they got the sexiness of the burnt orange and it's got the history of Texas. But again, in the last 20 years, what has Texas done of relevance? And the only reason why they're joining the SEC is because they can't beat the SEC. So you might as well join the SEC. So that's kind of where I'm at with Texas. I mean, I know that I'm harping on them a lot, but I am so sick and tired of all this love and all this just slobber fest for them.
I agree.
We've got Oklahoma, who's just as historical and got just as many championships, and nobody's talking about it.
Well, I was right. In the last 14 years, Texas has won double-digit games twice. In the last 14 years, Texas did it. 2018, they were 10-4, and then in last year they were 12-2. So if they're not dominating the Big 12, they're going to dominate the best conference in the history of college football, the SEC.
They can't even beat Kansas, guys. If they can't beat Kansas, and I know Kansas the last 2 years has gotten better, but if they can't beat Kansas on a regular basis, what makes them think that they can go into Nashville and beat Vanderbilt?
Well, look, let me for the record. I'm not trying to bash Texas because we have Ken Capps on here. I'd say this if anybody was on from Texas. Don't worry about that. I love them. I'm just saying that I think a lot of people, Texas, they've got money, they got all that. But since 1970, they've won one national championship. That was in 2005 with Vince Young going around right in against Southern Cal, 41-38 late. But I'll just say Oklahoma is the model of consistency. Now, people are acting like Oklahoma is in trouble. Last year they won 10 games. They lost their bowl game, sadly. But the first year with Brent Venables, remember, he inherited a roster depleted. Lincoln Riley, who was born on third base and thought he hit a triple and was a coach, is finding out he doesn't know a lick out at Southern Cal. And he's losing recruits every day. He's not the only school, trust me. But what I'm saying about Texas is last night, that was you wait till Oklahoma comes on tonight. They're going to stack up the numbers. But in the last 14 years, okay, in comparison, in the last 14 years, Alabama football in a state of 5.1 million people compared to 30 million people in Texas that we know of has won 10 games or more, 11 or more in every one of those 14 years except once when they won 10. Okay? So, Mitch, I think what it is, Commissioner Sankey was out there having fun. He's going to be the same way, I'm sure, today in Norman. But I think I'm picking Texas to go 9-3 this year. I'm not picking them to go 12-0. They may go. They're good, but it's the grind of having to do this week after week, Mitch. That's what they're not used to.
The SEC. I mean,
that's it.
They're not used to this. They haven't played Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. They haven't played those type of games each year. And yes, they get. And for whatever reason, the SEC gave them a very favorable schedule the first year. But it is what it is. But I think I saw this with a lot of State, a lot of Ole Miss people, Alabama people. Rob, you probably saw it with Auburn, Brendan with Florida. But the comment yesterday, I think it was by Peter Burns or somebody else, Jesse Palmer, where they said Austin was the best SEC town in the SEC. Guys, it might be a metropolitan booming city, but I can guarantee you I can go to Starkville, I can go to Oxford, I can go to Gainesville, Alabama, Auburn. Rob, you know how much I loved Auburn. Can't wait to get back. I'm going to Athens in October. Guys, those are the SEC. When I think of the SEC, I don't think of Nashville. I don't think of Austin. I think of Starkville. I think of Oxford, Tuscaloosa, Athens.
Well, you
Auburn.
better switch your thinking, son, because Austin's on the list now. I mean,
it's one. Yeah,
you can love it all the way. You can be a purist as the day is long, my friend, and I know you are, and I know you are too, Rob. But just strap it on because
I've been
loud.
To Austin.
Look, I'm from Colorado. All right, we make fun of people in Texas because they're the loudest people on the ski slopes when they're going down the hill because they're the ones screaming "Yeehaw!" and they're the ones driving real slow when we're going home and causing all the traffic. So we hated people from Texas, and I was, I grew up going to Colorado football games. So CU football games. Texas fans are not that great of fans. They're very.
Where's the wind coming from?
Well, he's got like 95 Bucks fans in his house.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to stay cool.
No. Sorry, I was one. No problem. I thought I was like going. Okay, no. Look, this
above
isn't
his
bash
head.
Texas because we got our friends at College
Oh, I
Station
bash
too.
Texas. I hate Texas.
Well,
I love Brendan.
I
let me
hate
say
Texas.
this.
I hate Oklahoma, and I loved watching the Gators whip their ass too for the national championship. I was right there in the sidelines when Tim Tebow did the jump pass. So I hate Oklahoma too. And Bobby Stoops, you can go screw yourself too. Go Gators.
Well, and this is the point though about
schools.
I mean I've watched Texas and I've watched Oklahoma, and in the modern era Oklahoma has been light years better than Texas. That's the only thing I'm trying to say. And it's a state
Absolutely.
of 5 million people. 5 million people in Oklahoma. Texas has an endowment north of 42 billion. The Aggies are over 20 billion. Money alone cannot make you national champion. I mean, again, you look at Alabama, but like Houston Nutt said it on this show. Again, if you're watching and you're a Texas or A&M or OU fan, I'm just calling it like I see it. It's the grind. Hey, Houston Nutt talked about it on the show back in May when he said, I live out in McKinney, Texas, and I talked to these folks. He goes, they're all excited about being in the SEC. I said, do you folks know what you're getting into?
Yeah,
he goes,
you don't know what you're excited.
Again, yeah, the Red River Shootout, the Red River rivalry is a big deal at the Texas State Fair. But you know how when you cut the grass, I cut the 5 acres over here at the farm, and you feel like you've done something? As soon as you wake up the next morning in the summer heat and rain, it's already growing, So great, you got to win Saturday, a big win against, let's say you played LSU. Well, the next week you got to play at Florida. The next week you got to play at Georgia. Next week you come home, you got Auburn. Then you got Arkansas. Then you got to play Ole Miss. I mean, that's the difference in this league. It's the grind, Mitch Davis. I mean, again, I love all these schools, but we're an SEC show. Look behind me. You can see all 16 of them on Barnwood Brenda's
here's the thing.
map.
Let me preference this. I'm going to have to learn to love Texas. But right now, that first, it's like when you go on a first date and you just didn't have a good first date experience, but you're kind of obligated to give a second date experience, kind of to make sure that it's okay. That's kind of where I'm at with Texas. My first interaction with Texas fans has been terrible. I mean, they have gotten in my Twitter DMs. They've said things that they probably shouldn't have said, all because I stood up for Texas A&M and said, hey, look, how that went down for the student athletes was complete bullshit. I mean, you're going to tell me that the coach wasn't thinking about going to Texas, even that his best friend's the AD, supposedly, according to Kendall Rogers, who I very well trust in college baseball, that deal was taking place back in the Georgia series. That was already a done deal. So the coach has already checked out. Once you get to the Tennessee, which I think A&M could have won that game, the coaching staff was checked out. It just didn't sit right with me. And as a journalist, I think it's my job as a third-party journalist to say, hey, like, there's some BS going on here. There is some injustice to these student athletes. And I mean, guys, we've had plenty of stories here in Mississippi between Mississippi State and Ole Miss of craziness in the rivalry. But that was a whole, especially when you're the new kid on the block going into a new conference and you pull that kind of stunt, that's going to leave some bad bitter taste in everybody's mouth towards your program. I mean, that's just my 2 cents.
It is.
Since 2012, A&M joined SEC.
Yeah, with Missouri.
42-31 since they've joined. Like that's ask A&M how they like playing in the SEC. Ask these guys. Missouri's probably. I mean, they've had a better run this last season. Obviously, it's a lot better. But I think if you went and talked to those, I think those schools, if you could talk to them collectively, I think they would say that was a lot harder than they thought it was.
Yeah, and Mitch, look, there's something came out. EA Sports came out and ranked the toughest football stadiums. A&M is loud. It's not the toughest. I'm not sure if they're 500 in SEC play at home since they joined the league, but Missouri, give them credit. 2 of the first 3 years they were in the league, they went to Atlanta. Now, granted, they gave up 59 points to Auburn in 2013, and they gave up, I think, 56 to Alabama the next year.
But
they were there. And I'll tell you something about Missouri. Dennis Dodd, who's CBS's National College Football senior writer, has been on the show a couple of times recently. Missouri's putting $250 million into just one end zone. They've got money. I'm telling you, the Cronkies, people like that, you got to know that Kansas City to St. Louis, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money up there. And I think they're starting to realize, okay, well, golly, you got me 11 wins last year. Maybe I'm going to give a little bit more. You want to hear a crazy stat? Nebraska football was in such bad shape before they hired Matt Rule. They got, in 2022, just over 86,000, I read, in fundraising. 86,000 in donations for football. You know how much they got last year? $15.3 million. Penn State, you think Penn State's this big brand with all these big-ass donors? Last year they got $7.3 million. Ohio State got 57. Michigan got 32. Tennessee last year got 62 million. And then A&M got 115.7 million. There's money out there. You just got to show you can do something with it, Mitch. But, hey, I'll say this. I don't hate Texas. I don't hate Oklahoma. I'll just say that it's going to be – this is what we love about it. It's going to be so much fun on this show because when they do come to town, Matthew McConaughey and everybody, it's going to be absolutely crazy. But a friend of mine asked me, he said, I can't believe the SEC ran so quickly to Dallas. I mean, so quick, but they see 30 million people in the Lone Star State. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, upsets me a little bit as an SEC guy is we sit here and we automatically move media days to Dallas within the first year of adding Texas and Oklahoma, already caving into the Longhorn narrative. And it's just crazy because I was talking to some Texas fans and, they're going to come to Hoover next year. I've met them. A couple nice Texas fans, I met them and, some of their media, they said, hey, we'd love to hang out with you in Hoover. But they were like, well, we've heard, terrible things about Hoover. We've heard things that, a lot of rain delays. Is there any chance y'all would move it to a, what do you call it, an indoor facility like we had?
No.
Absolutely not. No. There's just no way that we're going to move. I see, Rob, your good friend Marty Gatson, a great dude.
Marty's not only, he's like an older brother to me. He's a mentor. He's a truth broker. I love him.
I've got to meet him in person. I've talked on Twitter several times and Facebook and text, and he's a great dude. We got to meet in person sometime.
He is.
But I see his comments about Craig Sankey, and that's something that, as a journalist and as a fan of the SEC, I've also been very concerned about. Is where has Craig Sankey been in support of, of Tennessee winning the Natty or of A&M reaching? And I feel like the whole focus the last 6 months has been Texas and has been Oklahoma. But guys, I really appreciate. I hate to jump off because I love Fran's beard as well. But I've got to hop off here, do a podcast real quick, and then hop on my work at 9:00. So,
Mitch,
come on, Mitch, you got work. Come on,
keep that day job. Mitch, look, love having you on here. Let her rip, man. Look, this is what's going to be so much fun. It's kind of like when it's kind of like Texas and OU are pledges. They're going to have to go through their pledge throne. What kind of fraternity would give a man like you a pledge pin?
Mitch, you just got to learn how to Irish goodbye from this show. That's the only way to get out,
I do want to drop this though before I
do.
leave. I'm doing this really awesome podcast series, and Rob, I think you're working on a list for me as well with the remaining schools that I haven't been able to haven't been able to hear back from. But I'm doing the history of the SEC this summer. Obviously, next week I will be on vacation, but I'm really trying to deep dive into each program. I did Lawrence Smith, who I'm about to publish today. I've got a Vanderbilt guy coming on Friday while I'm in Orlando. I've got a representative from Arkansas. The guy from South Carolina, a couple others. Rob, I sent you the list. And so, Franz, I know you're a big Florida historian. So if you're interested, I'd love to interview you.
Sure. Mitch, you could ask me to come do the Space Mountain roller coaster with you. I'd do it since you're going to be in Orlando.
Get friends to do it, Mitch. That will be awesome.
Absolutely. When I get back from Anna Maria Island, we'll link up and we'll get something on the books.
Well, Mitch, be careful out there among the English, okay? And keep yourself cool.
I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good day, all right?
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Friends Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com. Folks, look, if you can read, and I believe everyone in our viewing audience can read and write, you need to be reading what Franz puts, the morning show prep, GatorbaitMedia.com. He's putting out great content. He and Buddy Martin, the whole crew, Lauren Meadows. I love because it's about, obviously, the Gators, the SEC, but it all relates to the big picture of college athletics. And I'm going to throw some numbers at you, friends. The NCAA brought in more than $1.3 billion last year. Mm-hmm. Most of that from March Madness. They don't get the college football playoff money. More than half of that was redistributed back to the D1 members. Broadcast rights passed $4 billion. Mm-hmm. Okay, these are some big numbers. 9 athletic programs in America brought in more than $200 million in revenue compared to 5 the previous year. Texas led the nation with $182 million in football revenue. Okay, men's basketball brings in the second most revenue, but pales in comparison. The top grossing basketball program in America brought in $38 million. So let's talk some football.
Well, it's the gas that powers the car. What can you say? There are very few programs that could, get along without football. You've got some small Catholic schools, for example, like Georgetown and stuff like that.
Villanova.
Well, yeah, and they play D1 AA football.
Yeah.
Of course, Georgetown plays Division III football, I think it is.
Yeah.
But the big schools, the ones that are constantly in the hunt for championships, they bring in the most money, and then you have the Longhorns, who hadn't been in a hunt for a championship in years, but they got more money. The only God has more money than they do.
That's right.
And we thought, we were used to the Aggies being the big dogs on the block when it comes to money, and the Aggies are little brother, and that's the thing that they hated about Texas coming into the league. Is now, they were getting out, they're thinking like, okay, we're a toddler, and look at this, we can run now and we're on our own. Well, along comes Texas and they're back to training wheels, and it's going to be like that because Texas, what Texas wants, Texas typically gets, at least in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the SEC, we're going to find out what's going on. Texas brings 4 national championships in its history, a whole bunch of other national championships, like 15 in swimming alone. And so forth. But the league has changed. The only way to put it is the league has changed, and it's changed because of football. Already the best conference in America is the SEC. And what does the SEC do? The SEC brings in a couple of schools that move the needle when it comes to football. 11 national championships between them. Now you take those 11, and then you got LSU has won 4. I think was it? Yeah, 4. LSU's won 4. Florida's won 3. Tennessee has won 3. Georgia has won 3, and on and on and on. This conference is driven by football, and football makes the money because of it. But it makes the money for all the other sports to exist too. So this is a symbiotic relationship that we all have with football, and I think that the league has come to accept the fact that, okay, if we put our emphasis on the football, the money is going to come, and we're going to be able to distribute it and bring all. What's the old saying? Water rise, all boats rise.
Rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah, there you go. Gosh, Rob, you today you were Mr. Univac.
I got them gazendas going.
Univac. I'm just gonna start calling you Univac because you got it there. But this is the thing about it. Is there? I've heard all the criticism through the years of the SEC is football, football, football. Yes, it is. But look what happens because of it.
Yeah.
You've got all these schools that have revenue that are winning championships in other sports. What is it? The SEC's won like 6 of the last 7 NCAA baseball championships.
Yep.
Mouse Holloway has won 14 national championships in track and field. We're adding Oklahoma, which is
I'm going to pause you real quick. Talk about track and field at Florida, and I want to get this in. The Ed Murphy Track and Field Classic in Memphis, July 11th, 12th, and 13th. Check out edmurphytrackclassic.com. They've got lots of Olympians. Lots of the top runners in the world will be in Memphis at the South Campus, University of Memphis. Check it out on the website, edmurphytrackandfieldclassic.com. They did the pole vault on Beale Street, probably had 20,000 people down there to watch track and field. It's a really cool event. Last year, Eddie told me he was at one of the meetings, and there were 4 Florida track and field coaches at that meeting. They're a huge. I mean, that if Florida is its own country, I want to see how many medals they bring home this year. That's you were talking about what football does. It fuels all this other stuff.
Well, it's like swimming at Florida. We won 13 straight SEC championships. Anthony Nesty is the men's Olympic swimming coach. He's the Florida swim coach.
Wow.
And we're bringing in Texas, Randy Reese out there. Eddie Reese out there. Goodness, the champ, but it all comes from the football. If it would be one thing if the SEC, if all the SEC did was take care of football and everybody else was little brother. But you take it Florida, every single athlete, whether you're a walk-on or you're on scholarship, eats 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Paid for.
Yeah.
The boosters pay for it. Yeah. See,
That's
what that
huge.
does? You know what that does? Because that happens, and it's not scholarship money, that's just booster money that pays for it. That means that Kevin O'Sullivan, who recruits almost exclusively in the state of Florida, because he can get kids on Bright Future scholarships, which guarantees their tuition. So now they got tuition and food taken care of. That means that the 11.8 scholarships that he has that the NCAA mandates, look at how he can distribute it and take care of people so much better.
Yeah. Here's the thing that you're pointing out is so true, because their friends hear about that, when their parents hear about that, and they're talking about it every day. I've got a son or a daughter in Gainesville, and they give them 3 hots and a cot, 3 square meals a day. That's a recruiting tool for every sport. And if I'm the football coach at any school, I'm going to be real tight with the track and field coaches, because track and field is your insurance policy for every sport you play. I mean, it is. You look at the athletes that are track and field guys. Auburn signed these 4 wide receivers, 2 5-stars, Perry Thompson out of Foley, Alabama, and Cam Coleman, 5-star out of Phoenix City, Alabama. And then they signed, Bryce Kane out of Mobile, out of Baker High School. And they signed another one named Malcolm Simmons out of Alexander City, Alabama, Benjamin Russell High School. That's the one I'm most excited about, because he just set the long jump 26 feet and change, all kind of track and field. He's a track and field guy. That's where, when we used to have everybody did track and field, friends, that's what gave us Herschel and Bo and Marcus Dupree, guys like that. Now we have specialty athletes.
Oh yeah.
They play their sport. We need multi-sport athletes.
See,
We need more of them.
This is the thing that it's funny because I was talking about it with a close friend of mine the other day, and as we pointed out, we played football during football season. We played basketball during baseball season. I mean, basketball season.
Yeah.
Baseball during baseball season, or track if you weren't very good at baseball, or tennis if you weren't very good at either one of those. And if your parents were members of the country club, maybe you played on the golf team. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the way it was. It's absolutely changed. The whole dynamic has changed. And now we're hearing about trickle down money going to, for example, guys who are getting money for these 7-on-7 teams who are getting money from shoe companies, and then they're paying guys to come play. And you have the one thing is, okay, you get these kids that come and they're highly developed for football, but you also get these kids that come and they already have their hand out. Okay, what's in it for me? And I think Lane Kiffin hit it very well recently when he said that what bothers him is these kids who come entitled, and everything he hears that coming out of the portal is, what's in it for me?
WIIFM. Yeah.
Yeah. I that's the thing that bothers me, and I'm with you. The sports are going to survive.
Yeah.
But they're going to be radically different than what we've known. I love that movie For the Love of the Game. Kevin Costner is in it, and the late Kelly Preston is in it. Terrific movie. Yeah. But I think about the name of that, Rob, For the Love of the Game, and I wonder to myself, how many guys are really out there anymore for the love of the game?
Let me throw that at you, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to do some rapid fire with you. You and I are going to play ping pong here in a second. Okay. First off, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was running, and I do this when I'm exercising, I'm swimming or whatever I'm doing. Athletes today are going to find out as we go forward that the fans do own and have all the power. It's just like in our government, we're a constitutional representative republic. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. Benjamin Franklin, when asked after they got it all together, what kind of government do we have, Mr. Franklin? A republic, if you can keep it. You've got to educate yourself. Think about student athletes up until just here recently. You go to Florida, Tennessee, Arkansas, Memphis, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Tennessee, wherever, okay? You work hard, you're a starter, or let's say you're on the scout team, or you play a little bit, but you do it right. You build relationships with the boosters, the alumni, your professors. It comes time to get a job. That ring knocking network is tight. It's real tight. Okay, now you got these kids today that are coming in. We all love our school. We love the laundry. We love the jersey. I mean, Florida people get all giddy when they go to Gainesville. I don't blame them. I've been down there several times. I mean, a friend of mine just took his son down there for a visit. He said, God dang, he said that place. And he's an Alabama guy. He goes, I've never been, and he was he was blown away. And so here's what we got. We've always loved fans in the SEC, college fans, but I'm going to focus the SEC. We love the brick and mortar. We love the grass. We love the eating establishments. We love everything. We've been going there since we were born at these schools. I know me. I did it with my kids. That's the way it is. So we love, therefore, those who wear our jerseys. And don't give me this bull crap that these student athletes have been used and victimized. Shut up. They've been given an opportunities that most people only dream of. Everything they need, tutors, medical, food, board. You can't care more than they care about getting their degree, okay? And we love them because we believe, love our school like we do. That's why we cheer for them and come to work Monday hoarse and can barely speak. because we love it that much. These kids today, because the NCAA, there are no adults in the room. They could have dealt with this 10, 15 years ago and given them long-term health care and benefits like that. We wouldn't be where we are today. They avoided it. They put their head in the sand, and this is what we got. Now, how are we going to fix it? Here's how. These student athletes are going to find out, do you get as excited in recruiting now? Really, it's just an audition. They may show up, they may not. They may have 1 or 2 practices with you and quit and transfer somebody else for the flavor of the day club, flavor of the month. That's where we are. And here's what's going to happen. You get a kid that comes to Florida, comes to Tennessee. He quits on you after 1 semester. He goes to another school, quits after spring practice 3, 4, 5 times. He's going to have nowhere to call home. He's not going to have that job network. He ain't going to have squat. Okay? They're going to find out fans appreciate loyalty. We don't just dump our schools and hit the transfer portal. I mean, you look at Florida and Auburn, mired both of them in 3 consecutive losing seasons. This is the worst 3-year run in Auburn football history in 74 years. That's how bad things are. But when you hire an idiot like Auburn did with Brian Harsin, who didn't recruit, didn't care, thought he was smarter than everybody, that's what you get. But the only way you fix it, you work your way out of it. But I just really believe that the portal, this ability to transfer wherever you want to, when these guys come back asking for help, they're going to get a lot of shut doors and unreturned phone calls, texts, tweets, whatever else there is. You got to love it. The fans love the school first. And when you show them that you love it and you give it everything you've got, I understand sometimes you got to transfer, but your honor's dearer than your life. And when you love it like we do, man, you're part of that family and the jobs and the connections. But again, getting your degree, Wimp Sanderson was right. How many of your players have graduated, Coach Sanderson? Some snarky little twerp in the media corps said one time. Wimp Sanderson fired back, as many as wanted to. It's on you. I can't care more than you care. Friends, agree or disagree?
Well, the thing about it is loyalty has been put to the task because of rules put in place or lack of. And the NCAA can only look at itself in the mirror and say, we are to blame. As Pogo said.
We are or aren't?
Yeah. What's that?
So you're saying they're admitting they are to blame?
Oh, they have to.
They have to. It's all their fault.
As Pogo once said, we have met the enemy. They is us.
Yes.
And that's the case of the NCAA. Back in 1996 was when it first popped up. Guys were saying, "Look, we're getting injured. We get it. We don't necessarily go to the NFL." But we can't get health care. We can't get health insurance because of our lingering injuries. We can't afford to miss work because the injuries have mounted up and are taking their toll later in life, which they do. Yeah. As people know, the average, if you play 3 years in the NFL, 3 years, think about this, your lifespan on the average is 57 years.
Yeah, I know.
And that's just after 3 years in the NFL. Imagine what it is for these guys that play 10, 12, 15 years and some of them do.
No, it's look, I'm not saying, this is my point. We should have given them the benefits like that a long time ago. And what makes me mad, I just think about it as a kid and my kids. And when we read what the great writers, and you're one of them, and Buddy, and Lauren Meadows, and David Whitley, we hang on every word that they say. Tony Barnhart, Jesse Outler, Furman Bisher, David Housel, Buddy Davidson, the SIDs, Norm Carlson. There's people identify with people in business who remind them of themselves when they were young and first starting out. That's who they do business with. And you think about a kid today, if you can't trust people, you have nothing. You can't build relationships without trust, and you can't have trust without a relationship. That's where we are. So We're going to fix it. It's going to be up to the American people. Hey, if this stuff gets too far out of hand, you watch. Fans will boycott the games. They won't give to their schools. These kids, they're going to have to do something. You cannot allow people to just transfer anytime that they want to. Think about, the schoolwork, what that does to your degree and everything like that. And I agree with what you said about the NFL. If you can last, it's 3 years and 4 games or 4 years and 4 games to get that pension. But I don't think you get that pension till your mid-50s.
Yeah. Well, here's
brutal.
Here I believe is the answer, and I've written about it before. We've even talked about it before.
Yeah.
Okay. You cannot transfer until you have spent 1 fall and 1 spring on campus.
Yeah.
You have to sit out a year. If you decide to transfer after that, and you are still taking remedial courses, you have to sit out a year and focus. And you do the simple things like that, and you can solve the transfer issue. Now, in case of, okay, I got recruited to this school and I'm here for the spring, and I got recruited to this school, I signed my LOI, and my coach gets fired. That's a different story, of course. But you have to add provisions in there that take care of this. But you got to start by this, okay? If you transfer, and if you want to transfer and you have less than a 2.5 GPA, guess what? You sit a year.
Yeah.
There's a way to do this, and academics have to be incorporated into the transfer process. For example, the remedial courses. I'll never forget back during the Vince Dooley years, and this is one of the things that Jan Kemp blew the whistle on.
1982.
You had guys who were juniors and seniors in eligibility who were taking only remedial courses at the University of Georgia. Georgia was not concerned with guys graduating. Vince Dooley couldn't have cared less, as long as he was winning ball games. And I'm convinced of that. I know Vince is beloved in Georgia, and there are people who are going to say blasphemy. But go look at what Jan Kemp said. Jan Kemp blew the whistle on what they were doing there. It was a regular football factory, and they really didn't care about your academics or your future there. This is one of the things I do like about Billy Napier, and why I think for the long haul he's going to succeed. He has built in a football culture at the University of Florida, and it is about the school first. About you first as a person, followed by the school first. And if you can combine those two things, then you can get a guy who will play his butt off for the team.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Look at the military. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Look at the culture. Which is the least funded of those 4 branches? The Marine Corps. But you can take an E1, E2 in the Marine Corps making maybe $20,000 a year and put them through 13 weeks of basic training, and they will have more pride than a lot of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Certainly more honor. And I'll say this. I got a T-shirt for doing the pull-up test. Pain is temporary. Pride is forever. Another one says pain is weakness leaving the body. Where we have a problem is people that buy into the narrative that the athletes are victims. Or what about the fans who pay $5,000 for the seat licenses just to buy the season tickets, and they have a team that quits on them and half-asses it? Hey, you know what? Accountability. There are 3 things that you got to have in life to be successful. And I'm talking business, sports, anything. Number 1 is responsibility. That defines the mission. What are you doing? Number 2, you've got to have authority. you're fired, you're hired, we're doing this or we're doing that. And number 3 is accountability. And Franz, you're right. You did write about this extensively in GatorbaitMedia.com recently about accountability. You've got to be making satisfactory progress. Hey, they're student athletes. Why should they academically be allowed to do anything that other students aren't held accountable for? We can't have double standard. And I'm telling you right now, we have all these just Kool-Aid drinkers in the national media that don't have a spine and won't call this what it is. But you're giving, because the NCAA is so void of leadership and backbones. This is what we got. Mark Emmert was a disaster. They played kick the can. You know, he should go to Hollywood and say, I want to be Pontius Pilate in the next movie about the crucifixion.
Well, Mark Emmert accepted the disaster that Cedric Dempsey left and expanded upon it. You know,
that's hard to do, isn't it?
It really and truly is. And what's amazing is the academics who run this thing kept reelecting him as the president. And this is the thing, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We got to get the school presidents out of athletics. We really and truly do, because they're clueless. They have no idea. There are a few of them out there that understand this is a business. This business attracts people to your school. Don't put the handcuffs on the people who are bringing in people to your school. You've pointed out, for example, Alabama, what happened with Nick Saban. I'll give you a great example. Florida State University was floundering, and they hired a guy named Bobby Bowden. They went from 15,000 students to, within 4 years, they were up to 22,000 students. You know, these are people paying tuition and things like that.
Yeah.
But you think about it, for those 7,000 people that got accepted, there were probably another 50,000 people who applied at $100 a piece. You start adding things like that up, and money starts coming in. You start expanding your campus. FSU is now 40,000 people. It would not have happened without Bobby Bowden. It really and truly would not have happened without Bobby Bowden.
You're right.
Look at what happened in Alabama with Nick Saban.
They're up to 40 now.
Yeah. Well,
Bama used to be about 16, 17,000. They're pushing 40 now.
Well,
football matters.
Yes, it does. And this is the thing about it. You're bringing attention to your school. And that's the thing that it does. But like I said, the academic people have to put business people in charge of it, and pat them on the back when they've done well. Maybe even say, okay, we got to fire you because we didn't do so well with the business. Mm-hmm. But let the business people run the sports and keep your fingers out of the pie. And this has been the problem with the NCAA all along, is you have people who have no clue. It's kind of like this. If I put you in the cockpit of a 747 with an owner's manual, there's a possibility that you could read, because you have a photographic mind. And there's a possibility that you could read that thing and get that plane off the ground just because you have read it, you remember it, you know where all the gadgets are and all the buttons are, and you know what to do. There's a possibility, maybe 1 in 10,000 possibility that you could do it. Now, how do you make it 9,999? How do you make that out of 10,000? You do that by, you read the manual, you've tested it, you've done all the flight training and everything like this.
Yeah.
And the NCAA doesn't seem to understand that. They throw the manual in people's laps with all these new rules and say, okay, it's up to you. No, it doesn't work like that. And finally, we're getting to a point, Rob, where athletic departments have banded together in situations like what the SEC has. You have a commissioner named Greg Sankey who really does understand the relationship has to be there with the academics and the athletics. But the athletics have to be able to do their thing with as little interference as possible.
Yeah, and let me say this too. There are some university presidents that they're out there that have a business mind, that are engineering. I mean, I can think of some. Dr. Chris Roberts at Auburn was dean of the College of Engineering. Okay, that guy knows how to solve problems. Okay, but you get some guy that's got a master's in Elizabethan poetry or primitive cultures. Maybe not. I think that's kind of obvious. But what I'm seeing, and you're right, you attract people like Maury Gaston. Great point. Athletics are the front porch of your university. Hey, great stuff. We'll be on tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. I'll be working on the show, the Buddy Martin Show, while Buddy is incommunicado in the mountains of North Carolina. But hey, thanks everybody for watching. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed country in the history of the world. Today, make it a point. Go out and do something great. Change your life, change other people's lives. Call it selfish, call it what you want, but make great things happen, because that's what we're here for. See you tomorrow, folks. Thanks, friends.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shopp's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
So important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot